loaded up. That's what we wanted. Put the hand up and then live with the results.
Those two words have cost LaMelo Ball $100,000. Yup, that happened back in November 2024. And trust me, this isn't the first time that the NBA or the EuroLeague has handed out a fine that makes you stop and ask, wait, what? So let's dive into the dumbest fines in basketball history. Starting with the LaMelo one, I gotta say this is probably the most polarizing example. Some will argue that it was deserved because the term is seen as insensitive and outdated. Others will call the fine BS, maybe even a free speech issue. Personally, I think the amount itself, $100,000 for saying two words, feels absurd, no matter where you stand on the debate. And I guess it just showcases the message the NBA is sending to its players. Just listen to Andrew Iguodala breaking it down to Kai Cenat, of all people.
You can't say that in NBA.
Really?
Yeah, you can't say that in NBA. Because it's insensitive, it's derogatory to a group. We got a big fan base and we don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
100,000?
Yeah, it's a bit much. We're going to fight that one though, don't worry. But we can't have guys saying that at the same time.
But words aren't the only thing that can cost a lot. Even more often, we see fines for just having a little too much fun on the court. And I'll be honest, it sucks that the NBA is so sensitive about these taunts. They're basically taking away so much personality from the players. Anyways, one of the funnier ones happened back in 2021 when LeBron hit a clutch three-pointer against the Pacers.
LeBron about to get into his action, launches a three, got it! The king from distance!
The league hit him with a $15,000 fine, calling the gesture obscene. The funny part is, LeBron knew exactly what he was doing. I think he paid $15K just to bring back the big ball stunt, which was once started by Sam Cassell and repeated by many others. But I gotta say, LeBron definitely put his own twist on it, grabbing it like that. Some of the other prohibited taunts include the cutthroat, the finger guns, the cash gesture, and of course the finger wag. So let's see what price tags has the NBA put on those ones. Starting with the cutthroat, we saw Dwayne Wade getting a $25K fine for it during his debut for the Bulls. Kinda cold, not gonna lie. Fast forward to this season when Jaylen Brown posterized Isaiah Stewart.
Game clock and shot clock. Holland's got to be careful not pick up his third, and Brown just put beef stew in the rim.
You guessed it, a $25,000 fine. But honestly, if you're gonna pull off the cutthroat, you might as well go all out and add some finger guns to it. After all, it did cost him the same $25K. The most legendary gesture to get fined for is Dikembe Mutombo's finger wag. The history of it is interesting. At first it was fine, then the NBA fined him $5,000 every single time he did it towards an opponent. But Mutombo kept wagging that finger, accumulating quite a sum over his career. Eventually, Commissioner David Stern stepped in and said, alright, you can keep the finger wag, but only if it's directed at the fans and not the players. That's how it is to this day. Speaking of fingers, I guess you don't use the middle one towards the refs if you want to save $35,000.
Whistles while I was reading the promo for that upcoming concert, and Zach Collins.
Or to the opposing fans, as Ant did it to one Kings fan. Now this one, I don't know, I'll just let the video do the talking.
Really? On the pass and they let it go.
Let's just say, not exactly PG. Well, anyways, $35,000. Immature? No doubt. Hilarious? Absolutely. Quickly, just a reminder to subscribe to our channel and also check out our second one called Outside the NBA, where we cover all the NBA topics. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment below. Now, of course, we can't forget the infamous money gestures. Nothing says frustration like implying the refs are basically bought. Luka Doncic is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to this one. I mean, he's done it quite a few times.
Down with 8:07 to go in the fourth quarter, Doncic.
I actually don't think they were going for the two.
Not sure what the amount Luka thought the refs were paid, but he had to contribute $35,000 to the league's budget. Kinda paying the ref salaries himself, I guess. Oh, and he has done it on the international stage too. And he avoided getting fined even though he looked directly at the VIP stands during it. Interestingly, it wasn't Luka who received the biggest fine for it though. It was actually Rudy Gobert who got hit with a whopping $100,000 fine.
One drop, rebound Gobert, whistle blows, loose ball foul, and it's against Minnesota if it's on Rudy Gobert.
Thing is, Gobert not only made the cash gesture, but also accused the refs of being influenced by gambling. So yeah, that explains the 100K, I guess. And then there's Jimmy Butler, who found a way to get fined without even being on the court. During a game in 2022, Jimmy was sidelined with an injury, just chilling in casual clothes. But when one of his teammates made a big play, Jimmy decided to celebrate with this.
Momentum that the Heat have established.
It's true. They're not stimming that jump shot. Right?
Yeah, that's $15,000 for just humping the air. Oh, and it's not the first time he's had some freaky time with the air. This was a year prior.
Jimmy against Gordon. A blow by, a foul, and a score. Jimmy Butler.
Speaking of getting fined off the bench, probably the most ridiculous case belongs to Tim Duncan. It's one of those legendary videos that I'm sure you have seen where the big fundamental gets ejected for laughing.
There he misses the free throw. And a technical foul call. I think it's on Tim Duncan sitting on the bench. Somebody on the bench for the Spurs.
He said enough to Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan says the ball does not lie. That's why the foul shot was missed.
Popovich doesn't like that one either. And another technical foul. And this is when Duncan's out of the game. He's thrown Duncan out of the game.
Everyone remembers these Joey Crawford shenanigans, but I'm sure not many of you know Duncan also received a fine of $25,000 along with it. Perhaps even fewer remember that right after this incident, the referee himself got suspended for apparently challenging Duncan to a fight during the exchange. Yeah, Joey Crawford was a character. Now, if you think the NBA is strict about gestures, I think Gobert's example gave you a good idea of what happens when players or coaches go after the referee. It gets even more expensive. Since we don't have fines for gestures in Europe, thank God, I'll start with a few of many examples from the EuroLeague. Just recently, Kendrick Nunn was fined 5,000 euros and suspended for 1 game after going after one of the officials during a matchup versus Partizan.
He's got to keep his emotions in check. He needs a teammate to come in and look at Obradovic. Look at the sportsmanship of Obradovic. I tell you, what a classy gesture by Coach Obradovic, who puts his arms around.
Another former NBA player, Mario Hezonja, got hit with an 8,000 euro fine for similar behavior.
Yeah, Hezonja is doing wrong. Hezonja is doing wrong.
He wants to get kicked out of the game right now.
But we saw a much bigger fine a few seasons earlier when Miloš Teodosic got thrown out and wanted to have a little talk with one of the refs.
Teodosic loses his footing, but Virtus retained possession, and then Teodosic tying up Ahmed Mbaye, and he's called for the foul. Because if you take a seat after 3 minutes of work, getting back up again is an almighty effort. Oh, now we've got a technical foul. Now who's this against? Because if against Teodosic, he's out of the game. He's out of the game. Daniel Hackett and indeed all of the Virtus squad just trying to keep.
That move cost him 15,000 euros and a 2-game suspension. Honestly, that makes no sense, especially considering one EuroLeague fine I have for you later. Besides these 2 examples, there have been countless times when coaches had criticized the refs and got fined, but these days basically all we get is something along these lines.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Coming back to the NBA, there also have been many examples, but one of the more recent ones comes from Fred VanVleet. In a very anti-NBA PR manner, VanVleet showed some real honesty with this one, knowing exactly what's to come after.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought Ben Taylor was terrible tonight. You know, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs. They're trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be and just kind of the game up. Nobody's coming to see that. They come to see the players.
Considering he not only singled out an official but also cursed, I think the $30,000 fine is kinda light, especially with what we've seen so far. And I guess that's what the NBA thought too, since in the most recent case, the penalty was much harsher.
Now Fred VanVleet was just thrown out of the game.
Freddie's got to be careful. Hopefully.
It was this rant from Anthony Edwards that set him back $75,000.
I said one thing to the ref, he gave me a tech. I told one of my teammates if I would have said y'all calling the bad foul, he wouldn't have gave me a tech. They just sensitive and they terrible.
And yeah, the message in both leagues is clear. You can criticize the refs, but be ready for fines and even suspensions. Personally, I hate that the refs get so much protection from the league. On the other hand, it is one of the toughest jobs out there, and truth to be told, nobody likes the refs. They're always getting all the blame, so I guess it's good that at least the leagues are on their side. Now finally, when emotions boil over, things can get physical, and the fines only get bigger. This video is about the dumbest fines though, so I guess the ones that are justified I'll just leave alone. Let's start with Nikola Jokic, who found himself in a bit of a scuffle during the 2023 playoffs. The scuffle wasn't with the opposing player though, it was actually with the owner of Phoenix Suns.
Hard to believe he'll be gone. Going to be strange to walk into this building and not see his smiling face as Phoenix turns it over. Boy, Jokic, a little bit of contact. Boy,
$25,000 for snatching the ball from Matt Ishbia and that light push, if you can call it that. I gotta agree with the Joker that it wasn't just his fault.
And I was hoping he's gonna pay my fine, but no.
And here we arrive at a much more serious altercation that happened during the EuroLeague playoffs in 2023. To this day, this is one of the craziest fights we've seen in basketball.
Crossing him up a little bit now with 5 to go. And there's a foul up top, and there you know it's going to happen sooner or later. Oh boy! Oh, come on now! This isn't what we want. This is not what we want. This has got to be stopped.
The result? A bunch of suspensions and 50k euro fines for each team. I actually did a whole breakdown of this fight, so I'll leave it in the end screen of this video. The odd part is, the biggest offender in this whole situation, Gershon Yabusele, did not receive an individual fine for slamming and injuring Dante Exum. Even though he got the longest suspension, which was 5 games, I don't think that was proportional to the behavior we saw. Like I said earlier, Teodosic got a 2-game suspension for going after the refs, and Yabusele got away with 5 after a much more serious incident. That's just dumb. But which of these fines do you think was the dumbest? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you've got more examples, drop those in the comments too. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, also check out our second one, and I'll see you in the next one.